Deputy Ellis.
I suppose, Minister, the Irish Aviation Authority granted the Pilot Training College their licence to operate, and this is a state company. The IAA were also charged with ensuring that the company had sufficient resources to safely provide the training. The PTC never had the resources available for the students to complete the courses, and we now end up with the debacle of a large number of people left stranded abroad with huge debt, and those are the people and not completing their training and not completing their education, which is a huge issue for these people. And we met many of them here at the Dáil, we met them outside. The stories that they told us about borrowing money and up to their eyeballs in hock is just unacceptable. And I wonder what scrutiny, of anything, the IAA put PTC under when they decided to grant them their licence, because there is an onus here on the state, because the IAA is a state institution that needs to be made accountable for what had happened as well as anything else.
Thank you, then. Minister.
I suppose, first of all, it's important to say that nobody has been stranded abroad.
Sorry.
They were, but they were subsequently either came home themselves or were repatriated at the cost of the IAA on a no prejudice basis on humanitarian grounds, really. I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but most of the trainees have actually resumed their training. I know some haven't, but most of them have. And arrangements have been put in place with other colleges to allow them, for example, to pay in instalments, so they don't have to borrow large amounts of money up front. And in addition to that, the IAA made sure they got their hands on the records, so that training done to date was recognised, and there had been a case previously where that didn't happen. So things were done to system to the extent that they could. Again, I have to point out that PTC was audited by independent accountants. There was no issue with the audit. Any inspections and reviews of the financial projections that were done by IAA did show that they had sufficient resources, and even if the IAA determined they didn't have sufficient resources, all they could have done was to remove its licence. So, with the exception maybe of a small number of people who paid fees in the last couple of weeks before they closed, everyone would be in the exact same position, even if the IAA had determined that there were not sufficient resources. A licence, I say, is not a bond. It's not a guarantee, and I think that's something we'll have to look at in future. That perhaps there should be a bond, but a bond will come with a cost, and that cost will have to fall, of course, on the trainees.
Thank you. Deputy MacLocLainn.
Sorry, I stood up. Thank you, Karen Corler. I just want to also note that the Corler was kind enough to grant me a topical issue on this subject, and thanks to a mess up just in our own office, I apologise for actually missing that, and I appreciate the opportunity to raise the matter again. You talk about the professional audit and qualified accountants and so on, but if you actually read the report excerpts from it, they say the negative capital and reserves of the company was almost 2.2 million underwater as of the 31st December 2010. These conditions indicate, the second quote, these conditions indicate the existence of a material uncertainty which may cast significant doubt over the company's ability to continue as a going concern. Second quote from it. Third quote, the financial statements do not include any adjustments that would result if the company was unable to continue as a going concern, and that's repeated twice. So, without qualification, but that's three quotes that cause serious concern and really should have stood out, in a big way. The fact is that the IAA did give them a clean bill of health, a state agency with regulatory responsibility. Enterprise Ireland, the semi-state body, granted €400,000 of grant aid to them, on top of an earlier €8,000 grant. So anybody, any Irish family or other families, but we're focused here on our own constituents, who put their life savings so their children could, meet their ambitions. They had looked at this. The full imprimatur of both the Irish Aviation Authority and Enterprise Ireland had been given to this company, even though it's clear from looking at their accounts that they were in serious difficulties. That's the first big issue. The second one is they now see Clear Sky Limited or Shenburn Limited, companies that are all the same directors starting again and possibly getting a licence. Where is the justice in this? I would appeal to you, Minister. I know you've met with the families. I know you know this issue very, very well. But I would appeal to you to reconsider. The Irish Aviation Authority are going to be before the Transport Committee next Wednesday morning. And if you could look at the transcript maybe of that meeting afterwards too, I would appeal to you to reconsider, because this is seriously unfair to the dozens of Irish families who are in serious hardship. This is deeply unfair. I know you are somebody who,
Thank you.
I have to say I would admire your approach to many of these matters. So would you reconsider with more information?
Deputy Minister.
I suppose that there are a couple of issues here. It's possible to read, read sections of accounts, but ultimately the finding of the auditors was that it was a going concern and would continue as a going concern. If it is the view that the IAA somehow failed in its duties, then it is open to people concerned to take legal action against the IAA, and then ultimately it's for the courts to decide at that point if that is the case. Although the IAA, which is of course the statutory body and responsible body here, not my department, the IAA is confident that from its own advice that it wasn't negligent in any way. I think the issue of Phoenix companies is one that obviously causes huge anger and frustration, but there is a reason why we have limited companies. And if an honest business person has two businesses and one business fails, it wouldn't be right to allow the business that failed to bring down the good business, and that's why we have limited liability, so that the failure of one business doesn't bring down other businesses. I don't know if there are any issues here for the ODCE, but if there are issues, certainly I would expect the IAA to make a referral to the relevant authorities. But I'm not aware if there are.
Thank you.